So amazing story there. I saw Steven in the chat. What is Steven's role at EQT? He's in completions.
Steven is vice president of completions.
Yeah, so Steven went with us on that trip when we first went to the dairy farm. And, you know, it's awesome to see it on video, but it's even more impressive to see it in person. And the way that I described it is you walk in these stalls and it's like a NASCAR pit stop for cows, right? And Steven looks back at me. He's like, wow, he's like, this inspires me to make our operation even cooler at EQT, just the way that you've automated everything. Why don't you tell us a little bit, you know, I know your son Devin had a huge impact on the way that you thought about automating the farm. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit first how you even got to that idea of thinking?
Like I said in the video, it was time to make a change. My dad and I and Devin were in a partnership for several years. Dad passes away, and you know, I think that some of the obligation is to make sure that the farm's positioned where it can go on to Devin and then maybe future generations. So Devin had been looking at robotics for a long time. I knew about it. I'd read about it. The technology I didn't believe was where it needed to be. We made some tours of some farms and started to believe that it was. And I remember almost to the day whenever, you know, Devin and I had talked about this, and I said, you know, we'll run some numbers. You know, we don't want to do anything that'll burden the farm that you know, can't pay for itself in the future. I just almost remember the exact day that I said, I think this will work.
We had a question from Juan Munoz for you, Larry, and I know that you'll enjoy this one because we talked about it a little bit. He said, is there a plan to produce biogas with all the manure and waste from the farm?
Yeah, we're looking at that right now. We have a couple things we're looking at. That's one of the big ones. Toby and I have even discussed it, you know, trying to see how how we can incorporate into that technology into the farm.
Larry, I think you're probably the most forward-thinking dairy farmer in the United States. So it did not surprise me when you told me that you were looking at renewable natural gas from the manure. So, you know, you have these, they essentially look like Roombas that are, you know, going around the pen and scooping up the manure, and then it goes and dumps it, and then that goes out to a pit. And so now that you have this pit of manure, it makes sense that you're looking at how can you turn that into energy and power the farm.
Yeah, and we build it that way with, you know, the future possibilities of covering that and capturing that.
Yeah, I have a question that came in through email. This question's for Toby. Said, having established yourselves as oil and gas digital leaders, do you believe EQT has created more value through modern analytics of legacy data streams, which would be discovery of answers, or digital workflow optimization, which is applications of answers? Simply put, do you understand the rock more completely, or are you just more efficient at doing the work?
Yeah, so I think where we look at where technology is best applied now, I mean, look at what we did with our campaign. It was all about unlocking large-scale common development. That was all about organizing the work on the surface. So we've been drilling these reservoirs since when did we drill the first well in the Utica? I think it was drilled back in 2010. I think industry has a pretty good understanding of what's going on subsurface. The connecting all the pieces to do it efficiently is really where a lot of the inefficiencies were coming from, and a lot of the waste and time. And so the technology we have that connects all these workflows is really what's driven the efficiencies back into our systems. Sure, and one of the benefits is when you can run a consistent operation and things go as planned, well then now it becomes a lot easier to focus in on the subsurface, and that will lead to increases in your well performance. So you'll get lower costs up front, better well performance over time, and that's the key to driving well economics. And in this day and age, you're looking for any source of efficiencies you can find. So it's sort of all of the above, but I think recently it's been more focusing on the surface.
This is a long-winded question. It's also telling a story, which I think is pretty cool. So bear with me as I tell this story. But Toby and Larry, the similarities between dairy farming and oil and gas development is a lot more apparent than people would think. You know, you actually pointed this out when you're walking us through the farm. You know, you showed us where the actual milk was getting stored, and you know, how you grade it and all those things. And I thought it was really interesting, the analogies between dairy farming and oil and gas. They said, my family was in the dairy business until 2015. In my experience, we tried to keep our OPEX as low as possible, but that was hard. Inputs continued to climb yearly, but the commodity was selling at 1990 prices. CapEx wasn't even in the conversation for us. We were not pulling in the margins to update equipment or reinvest in the farm other than our must-haves. We hung it up before a true evolution could happen. We didn't take advantage of new technologies, focus on performance improvement, and increase production while reducing input costs. The similarities in the two businesses are shocking. Toby and Larry, looking back, what do you believe was the single most influential decision you've made for your business? If you could, would you go back and reevaluate and change your decision?
Obviously, the biggest decision we made was what we just did. As we look back, we took a huge step out in doing more than what we really needed to do at the time. We installed 2 robots where one would have done the job, expanded the barn to a certain point where it would house more cows than what it currently houses. But that was the best decision we made, was really setting up for future growth and being able to avoid the situation like your email said, where you didn't look at technology and prepare for the future. We could have been saying the same things if we hadn't done this, but that was by far the biggest decision. I think sometimes the biggest decision, most expensive decisions are the best ones.
Yeah, I think the funniest part of shooting this documentary to me was, when you have an automated farm, it's doing all the work now, right? And so our videographer's like, hey, Larry, can you act like you're doing some work? And Larry looks back at him and I was like, are you going to tell Larry, can you pretend like you're doing some work? I thought Larry was going to slap our videographer, so I appreciate your patience.
I did the best I could to satisfy him.
Toby, what do you think, looking back, is there anything that you would have done different or any pivotal decisions that you guys have made?
Yeah, a lot of things I would have done different, but just focusing on what I think were some of the pivotal things. From there's been multiple. I think the first one was making the decision to start an energy business. I was fresh off the chimney sweep game, spent a little bit of time in the field as a floor hand on a workover rig, and spent about a year in grad school. And to drop out and say, yeah, we're going to start an oil and gas company, that was probably a pivotal moment. Getting Danny and Derek to join me just to do that was pivotal. Yeah, and since then, there's been a lot of big things that we've done, big decisions. From where we landed our lateral in the first wellbore that we did, going for the higher risk, more aggressive zone that was hopefully going to be more productive, but knew it was going to be a coin flip on whether we could get it drilled, to, making this bet with Larry's landowner group. I mean, Rice Energy had at that point in time, we had sort of got our hands wrapped around a pretty decent position in the Marcellus. But this was an opportunity right next door. We thought there was some value there. But that was a major bet for us that this was not a proven property by any means back then. But that was definitely a big bet for us as a private company. And I'd say from there, as a public company, putting in this digital work environment was a big culture shock, but I think ultimately that paid off, and we were a top workplace in Pittsburgh. And then, probably the most toughest decision we ever made was making the decision to sell the company, TQT. But it was the right thing to do, and created the nation's largest natural gas producer. Answering the call with shareholders, deciding to come back, get back involved, and then just recently, yesterday, making a case for American natural gas and the role that we play in the world, and standing up for this industry and showcasing and doing things like this now. I think is really important for all of us, and this should be a big turning point. I think in our industry, we've got so many stories like this, but nobody knows it except for us. And unfortunately, the world, I think, is a little bit farther behind in understanding all the great stuff that we do, and that's why I think doing more things like this is going to be, really important.
Yeah, I think one thing that was really interesting about your farm, and you see it in this documentary, Larry, is that, I saw one comment in the chat was like, hey, that's beautiful area. When everyone outside of oil and gas thinks of oil and gas, they think of, barren wasteland, and oil and gas is polluting the environment. And you look here in this video, and it's evidence that contradicts that narrative, right? I mean, it's beautiful rolling hills, farmland. And when you were walking around with us, you had made a comment to me about Ivy League universities coming out to your farm and taking air samples, and finding the air samples were clean. Can you talk about that a little bit, and just kind of tell about your experience with people coming out there and what they found?
Yeah, one of the things we've done is we are open to anybody that wants to come and visit. We have nothing to be ashamed of. We're proud of the way we dairy farm. We're proud of the way we've partnered with somebody to extract the energy under the ground. And So we've hosted school kids. The pads are open. There's a road right out to the pads. Anybody from town can drive out, and it was not uncommon to be there. Just drive up someday. There's 2 or 3 cars. Somebody drove out and wanted just to watch them drill or watch them frack, and was approached several years ago by Cornell University or from Yale by Yale University to be part of a study. And we were more than willing. Our mentality is there's nothing to hide, but if there is something there, we want to know about it also. Conducted air studies, conducted water studies. Everything came back well within the limits of being safe air to breathe and safe water to drink. A few years went by. They wanted to conduct another study. Once again, open to do that, same results. So I think that's a testament to the ability to extract natural gas without damaging the environment. And as you can see from the pictures, we graze right up against the pad. We raise crops right up against the pad. I think they fit in very nicely on the farm, and they don't obstruct our ability to continue to dairy farm. And Toby and I was just talking about this the other day, that I said, no way we could have done this and had windmills or solar panels on our farm. The amount of acres that it would have taken to produce the same amount of energy that we do off of these 2 small pads would have just put us completely out of business. So
yeah, the energy density is a critical point when you're using the acreage for farming, right?
Yeah, and Colin, when you look at those pictures, those wide shots that you panned out focusing on Larry's pad, I mean, that whole area is developed. And you can still say, wow, this really is a beautiful area, with the advancements that we've had in hydraulic fracturing. And by the way, this is not unique to EQT. This is the way the industry operates now. We're with long laterals, combo development, we're building these sites that are anywhere from, 10 to 20 acres in size, but we are draining the resources under, almost 2,000 acres for every site that we build. And when you do the math on that, we're utilizing less than 1% of the surface to get all this energy out of the ground. And just to compare this, because I like doing the relative comparisons, for us to satisfy all the energy needs in New England, if we were trying to do that with renewables, we would have to basically cover the state of Pennsylvania, edge to edge with solar panels and windmills. As a resident in Pennsylvania, I find that, kind of unappealing. But not a knock against renewables. They have a place in this world, but there's nothing like the energy density that we're producing. And I think you can see it in this video, how minimally invasive our operations are, and also heavily scrutinized. This is out in the open. Larry's out there running his own tests. We run our own tests. This is in areas where everybody's looking at it, so you've got to do things the right way. And fortunately, everything always shakes out to be done the right way.
And I think you said when we did the deal that 3% of the land would be affected by surface activity. I think technology and the ability to do even better than that got it down to that 1%.
I think our first well out there, Larry, the Bigfoot, I think we were going for it, and I think that first well was like 6,000 foot. And now we're drilling 12,000, 15,000 foot laterals, and there's your 3% going to 1%.
Hey, Toby, we got a question for you. You put out this letter publicly replying to Senator Elizabeth Warren, and you got a lot of people on the internet hyped up. It was a breath of fresh air to see a CEO of a large oil and gas company replying publicly to an attack that was using misinformation. One of the questions someone asked was, why do so few business leaders in oil and gas stand up for their firms?
So to just give people some background, we got a letter from Senator Warren a couple weeks ago accusing the oil and gas, and she sent it to about a dozen energy executives, large natural gas producers. So naturally, EQT received the letter, basically, accusing energy executives of price gouging and claiming LNG exports are the reason for high gas prices here in the U.S. And our response was very simple. I would urge everybody to go to our website and read the letter. There's a lot of great data in there, but the punchline is this, concerns over LNG exports and gas prices are misplaced. U.S. energy exports are the largest green initiative on the planet, and it's not even close. So if you care about the environment, you should care about, doing more U.S. LNG. to replace foreign coal across the world. It's the biggest environmental initiative on the planet, and nobody knows anything about it. And so, I think for us, this is something, understanding all of the solutions that are being proposed on the environment. I think a lot of times people think that, hydrocarbons are not part of the solution. Well, actually, we are the solution. And in this letter, you'll see exactly why that is. And it's because clean burning natural gas is replacing coal, which is has a little bit more emissions associated with it. Every BCF a day that we produce here in the United States, incremental to what we're doing now, is a BCF is exported through LNG, and that's a BCF a day's worth of coal that's not being burned. The environmental impact of that, Colin, is every BCF a day is saving 30 million tons of CO2 per year. Now, to make that relevant, that's the equivalent of about a little bit over 6 million electric vehicles. It's like putting BCF a day is like putting 6 million electric vehicles on the road. Now, make that route. That's like one BCF a day is 6 times more impactful than Tesla, because Tesla does about 1 million cars a year. We're exporting over 12 BCF a day in this country right now. So you want to talk about what's making the biggest change in this world? It's U.S. natural gas being sent overseas. And what's really cool is we talk about, U.S. LNG being the biggest green initiative on the planet. It starts on places like Larry's farm and places like when you see the benefits that we're changing here in Larry's communities and Larry's farm, and we're going to change the world with more natural gas. It's pretty exciting. Why don't other guys tell this story? They are. I think they will start talking about all the great messages. One thing I think a lot of people can do. This is an awesome story. There's thousands of stories like that. So I hope that others will take opportunities like this to showcase the great impact that we're making on the world.
Absolutely. Before we wrap this up, Larry, something really cool from your barn is that you have this old black and white aerial shot of your farm. When was that picture taken?
1961.
1961, and really cool picture. I know it's sentimental to you. You have it hanging up in your barn. So we recreated that shot with our drone when we were out there, and we printed you out a new picture to hang up on the farm here. So want to give this to you as a token of our gratitude for one. I want you guys to know, Larry stayed up all night recording that documentary. When he's sitting there in the living room, that was at nighttime, and I was so impressed with your ability to do that. So yeah. I appreciate you doing that. I hope that this will get hung up next to the old shot, and we were proud of this story. We were proud to tell it. It was a good story for us to educate the general public on natural gas production. So. Toby, thanks for linking us up and making it happen. And Larry, thanks for letting us come out there and shoot the video.
Thanks for doing it, Colin.
Appreciate you guys. Guys, if you want to check out this, if you want to watch the documentary, rewatch it, share with your friends. It will be posted up on our YouTube. Should be live. We're going to be live tomorrow. Should be live tomorrow. Tonight, tomorrow, check it out. We'll be pushing it out. So if you want to rewatch it, if you want to share it with your friends, please spread the word. We want everyone to see this. We are going to promise you guys I'm going to be giving away an Xbox. We're not going to do it today. We're going to pick someone that was on the premiere tomorrow. I'll announce who won the Xbox, send it to you in time for Christmas. Really appreciate you guys joining us. Toby, Larry, thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it.
Hey, listen, thanks to the Digital Wildcatters. I will tell you, you guys made the story really pop, and it was awesome. It was super easy. And man, wouldn't it be amazing if other people in industry, this is a really simple way to go out there and tell your stories. I would love to see more stories coming from other people in industry, and hopefully they can just give you guys a call and you guys can take care of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'd love to see some more.
We like telling stories, especially when it's got good people like Larry. So yeah, if you got a good oil and gas energy related story, hit us up. We'll take care of you. Catch you guys on the next one.